In a word, Heng Ah. In Singapore, Heng is used to convey the feeling akin to that of feeling relief. Now, loosely translated, it means lucky. So, why Heng? Type in Heng Ah in the comment section down below so that I know you are watching this video, and let me explain it to you. The 14.19 firmware release is unremarkable in a good way. In October, Sonos released version 14.18 firmware, and that was the best sounding profile for Sonos ever. So when I say unremarkable, it is a good thing. It means that solid sounding sound profile from 14.18 is preserved in this release. So, upfront summary guys, 14.19 is good to go. You can install it without problems. Settings were all preserved. TruePlay need not be redone. I know some of you were waiting for me to verify this update to see if it breaks anything or if it causes any issues. Now, this is my responsibility to you in a way. And this update caught me by surprise, unprepared, as it was a little bit early. So this video is kind of late, a couple of days behind the actual release of the firmware itself. But this update is good to go. So update away. Now, there's a small bug that they resolved that has got to do with Spotify podcasts, but I don't use Spotify for podcasts, and definitely not on my Sonos system. And when they release the Sonos headphones, maybe I'll do that, maybe. But till then, this doesn't impact me. For those of you wondering whether the sound profile of any of the speakers have changed or the sub has changed, no, it hasn't. So good to go. Now, I did the test on the Sonos Arc with the Sub Gen 3s and 5s as a surround, and I also did the test on the Beam Gen 2 with Sub Mini and the ones as surround. I measured the frequency response for the Beam Gen 2 setup, and I have it in the chart right here. Now, I won't be running through the frequency response charts, only to show you that there is no change. In fact, if you look at the chart very closely, you might actually notice that there is actually a red curve right behind the green curve. The red curve is actually for 14.18 and the green curve is for 14.19. There is no perceptible difference at all. So that's it for the Sonos 14.19 firmware update summary. And you know how many YouTubers out there, they bait you with the promise of an answer and give it to you only at the end of the video? I kind of like to do things the other way around so that you get the answer up front. I respect your time that way. But if you actually do have some time, stay around and I will explain this release to you. And also to share with you the best buys during the Black Friday sale for Sonos. That way, you respect my time and my work and allow me to monetize this video a little bit more. Fair exchange, fair ask? Okay, good. Let's move on. So Sonos has been releasing software versions using even-numbered subversions for the past year. It started with 14.0 in January and it went on to 14.2, 14.4, 14.6 and so on, all the way till the buggy 14.12 that broke the sub output, and finally it ended with 14.18 last month in October with the best sounding version ever. And Sonos has always been releasing firmware updates on Tuesdays. Now, I didn't expect them to release on the 16th of November, the Tuesday that passed. I thought they would have released it on the 23rd of November instead. So I was caught unaware and committed my time to other videos. But 14.19 came out. I expected 14.20, but they decided to call it 14.19. Why? Actually, I have no idea. But I do have an idea why they launched it so early in the month. Black Friday sale. Now, if they were to release version 14.19, say next week on the 23rd, it would have been right smack during the sale. And if the release was buggy, there's going to be a lot of angry customers, new customers, mind you. But the release didn't introduce any major features and there wasn't a major bug to resolve. So why rush it to 16? Now, imagine this. You buy a new Sonos product and you bring it home on Black Friday, right? Or you buy it over the weekend or even on Cyber Monday. Now, you know how when you set up any new Sonos updates, you have to go through the update process, right? You have to update the firmware. So you bear with that, you go through the long process of updating and done, you start to enjoy your new purchase. Now imagine if they had released the firmware next week on Tuesday. Now, these new owners, after doing one round of update, upon setting up the new purchase on Friday or over the weekend or on Monday even, now they have to perform another update because there's a new firmware release again and you have to go through the whole process again. Now, you wouldn't like it, and I definitely won't like it either. Now, this is the reason why I think Sonos is such a great company. They have really thought about everything that will impact user experience with their products. But hey, Sonos, if you are listening in and you actually didn't think about that, just pretend that you did maybe, and remember, I thought about that. So if you need to create a new role for the Chief of Customer Experience Officer, hit me up at my Instagram account, PeterP65, and I will send in my resume. You can call this position maybe CXO, short for Chief Experience Officer. Annual salary package negotiable, but I will require unlimited access to all Sonos products, including the revised Sonos ones with upward firing speakers and the headphones. You know what I'm talking about. So, Sonos is truly customer first. You know why? Now, let me share something else with you. Sonos FY22, financial year 22 results, was actually released and announced on the 16th of November. Yep, that's the Tuesday that passed, the same day that the new firmware dropped. Now, someone there is thinking, what if we release the results, which wasn't that great, by the way, and the firmware breaks something unexpectedly? Wouldn't that be a double whammy? So let's push it to the 23rd and impact the customers instead, right? Investors are more important, right? No? Yeah? Now, when I say that the results weren't great, I didn't mean that it was bad. I mean, sure, the year-on-year revenue growth wasn't on target from a year ago when they anticipated a much bigger growth, and they actually did post a loss, but they did beat the revenue estimates from the analysts. Per household unit ownership is actually up, which is a good thing. That means more of us suckers are actually buying more of their stuff. And this will get better with new products being launched. Supply chain disruptions are actually easing up and they are recovering from that. So now is really the time to push more products and to sell more. Now, industry watchers might not know the entire product lineup and market as well as I do. I mean, we talk a lot and I probably can represent the sound and the voice of the consumers. But if I were to make a bet, I'll bet on Sonos outdoing themselves for Q1 of 2023. With the new Sonos Sub Mini pushing sales and definitely with the 20% discounts that they are throwing out during the Black Friday sale. There may be other macro forces at work, but all else being equal, I'll say that Sonos is a solid buy at the moment. I mean, both the stocks and the speakers, but of course the speakers. And since we are talking about Black Friday and the fact that Sonos is treating it so seriously, I have to talk about the sale that they're running this Black Friday sale. So I was having a lot of difficulties trying to figure out the discount levels as they vary from region to region, country to country. Now UK and the rest of EU has slightly different discount levels. US has a 20% discount, which is great. So I'll just use numbers that I'm seeing from the Sonos.com website itself. For some reasons, it is displaying euros to me. I'm based in Singapore, but let's just use that as a baseline. There are some notable product discounts that I want to tell you about. There's a whole list of products on discount from Sonos, but I want to highlight 5 major ones for you. The rest are really just combinations of the 5, or they might add something else in there to make it look like a different discount, but they all work out to be the same kind of discount if you were to package individually. So first up, we have the Sonos Roam. The Sonos Roam, including the Roam SL version, is running at a 50 euros discount. That's 199 euros down to 149 euros for the regular version. And the Roam SL is down from 179 euros to 129 euros. Now, in terms of percentage, the Roam SL has a far better discount, and that price makes this Bluetooth come Wi-Fi speaker a great bargain, and maybe definitely buy a few to stock up and gift out for the Christmas season. Just bear in mind that the SL version cannot do auto true play because it has no built-in mic, and thus also no Sonos Assistant. Now next up we have the Sonos One, which is a very versatile speaker. This is almost like the bread and butter speaker of Sonos. It works as a standalone speaker on its own, or you can pair it up to a stereo pair, or they can be deployed as surround speakers to a Sonos Soundbar or the Sonos M. Now, both the One and the One SL are at €50 off, with the One down to €179 and the One SL down to €149. Now, seriously, if you are looking to add surrounds to your setup, now is the time. You will be looking at just €300 for a pair of the One SL, and with change, right, to add surrounds if you don't already have it. And because in surround configuration, you don't need the mic, there's €60 saving over the regular one with the mic. So this makes me wonder, are they trying to draw down the inventory for the Sonos One? Because inventory costs money and they need to make space for new products. Maybe the Sonos Ones with upward firing speakers. I don't know, so don't quote me. But if you need to know and you need to be kept updated, make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Now, the third that we're going to be talking about is the Beam Gen 2. Now, this is quite mind-blowing. There is a €100 discount running on the Beam Gen 2 right now. So it's down from €499 to €399. This is a big deal. The Sonos Beam Gen 2 is a relatively new product launched just last year, and it features Atmos capabilities, just like the much more expensive Sonos Arc, which is twice the price. Now, it doesn't feature upward firing speakers like the Arc, but it does process Atmos. Now, if they do launch the Sonos One with upward firing speakers, we can then add those to the Beam Gen 2 and you will still get upward firing speakers. Now, of course, that's not available yet, but if you are confident that they will cave in and launch that product, then now is as good a time as any to buy the Beam Gen 2. Now, in anticipation of that Sonos One launch with upward firing speakers. Now remember, you will need an Atmos-capable soundbar even if you get upward firing surround sound speakers, because that soundbar is the brain of Atmos processing. And at €100 off, this becomes the most value you can get from Sonos at this point if you want Atmos processing capabilities. The next product up is the Sonos Arc. Now, this Sonos Arc is the flagship Sonos soundbar. It is their first Atmos-capable soundbar, and that was the grandfather of Atmos soundbars when launched 2.5 years ago, back in June of 2020. But it was pricey at launch, made worse by a price hike about a year ago to €999. There is a €200 discount now, bringing it down all the way to €799. Now in the US, this would be $899 down to $699. This is the lowest price I've ever seen on the Sonos Arc. The price reduction could be to align it against the deluge of all the Atmos-capable soundbars flooding the market within the last 2 years, or it could be in anticipation of a newer version of the Sonos Arc, maybe the Arc Gen 2. Now, there has been a little bit of speculation on that, but by March next year, the Arc Gen 1 would have been 3 years old, and that sounds about right for a refresh to help the Arc retain its position as a market-leading Atmos soundbar. Now, the fifth and the last product that I want to bring your attention to is the Sub Gen 3. Now, that has a cool €170 off, bringing the price down from €849 to €679. Now, in the US, the Sub Gen 3 has a $150 discount. The Sub Gen 3 is Sonos' most capable subwoofer. Now, in fact, up to 2 months ago, it was the only subwoofer that you could buy until they launched the Sub Mini. Then the Sub Mini, it punches well above its size category, but for all-out grunt in a large room, you're still going to want the bigger Sub Gen 3. The Sub Mini is selling very well and has converted many Sonos users to want a sub in their setup. But the Sub Gen 3, getting a $150 discount, is going to make the Sub Gen 3 a far better value proposition than the Sub Mini. Right now, there isn't a discount on the Sub Mini, but that small bugger sells by itself anyway. Another possibility is that you might already be running a single regular size sub. If you are looking for a dual sub configuration, you will need the Sub Gen 3. It doesn't matter whether you have a Sub Gen 1 or the Gen 2 or the Gen 3. As long as you get the new Sub Gen 3, you will be able to run dual sub configuration. The Sub Mini cannot run in a dual sub configuration. So if you have been lusting after a second sub, now is probably the time to do it with a very rare discount on the Sub Gen 3. Now I hope you have found my recommendations for the savings for this Black Friday sale useful, and if you end up buying one of those and save some money, maybe you can put some of those savings towards my coffee fund. I have a Patreon account which I will link in the video description down below, or you can scan this QR code on the screen right here. Now the best way to buy me that coffee is really to just use the Super Thanks button below this video on the YouTube screen for a one-time contribution. Now, regardless of whether you do that or you don't, I welcome you on my channel anyway. I might not be able to reply to every comment or question, but I try my best when my work allows for it. And if you have already bought a Sonos system based on the recommendation that I have made or are planning to do so, please remember to check out my settings for the best experience you can get from your new purchase in my videos that I have listed right here. And those will cover all the products that I have mentioned in this video right here. So I will see you over in one of those videos, depending on what you have bought.